Hi, I thought I'd do a little bit on these fake batteries that you can get on eBay and elsewhere on the internet, and I just got a good example here, so I thought I'd show it off to you. Here we have a BL5C battery which fits in lots of phones and cameras and MP3 players and all sorts. Now this was a cheap battery bought off a Hong Kong supplier on eBay, and as you can see it looks great, doesn't it? Got all the logo and Nokia registered, all the information on the battery, all of which is just total bollocks. It's not Nokia, it's not registered, the trademark is registered, but it's nothing to do with Nokia. It is a BL5C shape, but the cell inside it, which I'll show you in a minute, is not the correct shape, and certainly isn't anything like 1020 mAh capacity. In fact, that was what made me suspicious of this battery, because I put it into equipment and it didn't last very long. So I measured the actual capacity, and it came out at 420 mAh, so well less than half of what this has got as its headline rate on here. But the battery looks great. I mean, it's got the proper Nokia logos and all the rest of it. So I'll now just show you what goes on inside and how they've managed to make money out of this, what was a very cheap battery. I mean, it only cost £1.37, I think, from Hong Kong. So it was cheap as chips. But I'll show you the reason why. First of all, the cell it's got inside. I bought two at the same time, which is why I've been able to show you the original shape of the battery. So this is the cell it's got inside. This is a cell which you can trace from the serial number here to Rufa batteries in Shenzhen in China. Massive battery makers, and they sell this exact prismatic shaped battery in a number of different capacities. They sell it as a 400, would you believe it? They sell it as, I think, a 600 and an 800, which 800 probably for this size of actual battery casing would be the absolute maximum you could pack in on a good day. So here's the cell. I'll go into the pricings of these later, just as a matter of interest. But what they've done is, in order to give it the correct shape for the BL5C, which you can see has got nice rounded corners and all the rest of it. So in order to do that, they've taken this prismatic cell, and they've put a spacer round it. So that gives it the rounded corners and takes care of the fact that it's actually not as big a cell as in the original battery. So that's the first way they've managed to save money. The second is that you can see here, this is the circuit board that should protect the battery in case of over discharging or very heavy discharging, or in fact overcharging. Now you can see here this little circuit board is completely unpopulated with any active components. It's actually got one little resistor on it which provides sense to this center pad, and so that's the way they've managed to save a pile of money on there. All the integrated circuits and things that are supposed to look after the charging are completely missing. So I'm not going to go on about the safety aspects of this. Most phones and things have got their own charging circuits and would protect it, even though it's got no protection of its own. But if you happen to put it into a phone that went wrong, or you put it into a charger which had no protection circuits of its own, then this battery would cause trouble. Lithium ion batteries can get hot, start swelling and blowing up and all that sort of stuff. So you need to be aware that none of that stuff is actually in the battery. But of course there's nothing to tell you that, so you would just take your chances. Now the other thing they've done, in order to fill the gap there, they've put in a piece of foam rubber. Great. That'll sort out your charging circuits, won't it? So, piece of rubber, a plastic spacer, and, of course, the very nice label. Now, of course, all these extra little components can be produced by the gazillion for absolute peanuts, less than a fraction of a penny in China. And then you've got a little bit of work in putting the battery together. So you'd wonder how they can make money at the costs involved, well, the price that they've managed to sell the battery. So here's where I got the battery. This company is called HitTime-3C in Hong Kong. And I bought two of these, and one of them costs £1.37. So you'd wonder how they could actually make any money at all. Well, here's the information from Rufer. This is Rufer Energy in Shenzhen. There you can see it. Now the cost of these cells, this is the cheapest version of the cell, so this is the 400 milliamp one. So it says here 3 renminbi to 15 renminbi. Well, now that would depend on how many you ordered and what services the battery had, i.e. how much capacity and whether it had all its safety circuits and things. Now they bought this as a bare bones, cheapest cell they can buy. So I'm going to take that 3 renminbi. So that's about 30p in UK money, probably a bit less than that. So a third of a pound, say, plus a few bits of, a few pence for the extra little bits and pieces, and the little bit of work in putting it together. Let's say the whole battery costs about 40p to make, and then of course China Post, they don't have to pay anything for that. So there you go. So they're making roughly £1 a battery for doing this this scam. So that's how it works. I'll just end on a lighter note and say that there are people making these sort of batteries perfectly with a perfectly good capacity. Here's one that I bought from a UK supplier. Now this one says, you see here it says 1200 milliampere hours. Well, not a hope in hell of fitting 1200 milliampere hours into a battery case this size. So this isn't what it says it is, but in fact it has a perfectly good capacity for a BL5C battery. And bearing in mind the cost of this, which I think was about £1.50, you know, you can't complain at that. It's just overhype. Now, in fact, the original Nokia versions of these batteries had a capacity of 800 milliampere hours, and of course had all its safety circuits and things inside it. The original batteries would now cost you probably £10 to £15. So it's definitely worth buying, say, something like this, because you're getting a perfectly reasonable crack at the battery, just not quite what it says on the tin. So that's a good one to buy. This one, Cameron Sino, these are. Now this one, I measured the capacity of this, and it's exactly what it says, 930 milliampere hours. So they're not lying at all. This is actually a Garmin battery, you know, it has plugs and things on it, and it is therefore a little bit more expensive. But it has exactly the capacity it says. Here's a Sony phone battery. Now this is an original battery, and it says it has 1000 milliampere hours, which I'm sure that it did when it was new. It's probably, this one's about 5 years old now, and I've just measured the capacity in 2015, and it's 0.94, which is 940 milliamps. So it's doing well, isn't it? 5 years old, it's been in constant use, and it's got jolly nearly its original capacity. So these little one-cell batteries, that's how the fake ones make sense to the people producing them. And my advice would be just not to pay quite the cheapest price you can find, and try and buy from a decent, reputable supplier. If you're in the UK, try and do it from a UK supplier, because even though you've got to pay a little bit more, you're liable to get one with a reasonable capacity, not ones like this business, which are just a complete fake. And of course, you put them in your phone or whatever, and it only lasts, you know, a third of the time that it did with the original battery, and that's the reason why. So good luck with your battery buying. Hope that's a bit helpful.